have you with us, Dave Revson and Rafael Davis. My ears are still ringing a little bit after that wild scene in Evanston. It was really incredible. This conference never fails to deliver, Rafael.
This is a big-time weekend of basketball. This is what you live for. If you're a college basketball fan in February, this is where teams really start to separate. You find out who can really win at this time of the year. And it is tough to win on the road in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that has been a constant theme throughout the year, just how tough it is, which transitions us to our big story. And that was a lesson that Purdue found out yesterday, as the biggest story was in Evanston. Northwestern got its first ever win over a number one team, topping Purdue by 6. Indiana held Michigan scoreless for the final 5 minutes. They got a road win, pulling it out by 1. Illinois pulling away in the second half to top Rutgers, and Maryland stayed perfect at home in conference play, taking down Penn State. Let's start with Northwestern. They only led this game for 2 minutes, but they picked the right 2 minutes.
Yes, they did.
Rafael, incredible finish down the stretch from their defense in particular. What did you take from the way this one ended?
It was a big-time second-half performance on the defensive end by Northwestern. They were down 7 at half, but they stayed with it. You think about this Purdue team, the way they started the game, 5 of 9 from the three-point line in the first 10 minutes. But they didn't make a three-pointer in the final 30 minutes, and that became a difference in the game. But in that second half, Northwestern put the locks on Purdue, and they just completely shut the water off. I mean, Zach Edey goes 5 for 7 from the field in the second half, but everyone else on Purdue's roster, not named Zach Edey, goes 1 for 14 in the second half. They go 0 for 8 from the three-point line, turn it over 13 times. It was just a masterful performance by Northwestern.
I mean, that's crazy, right? Twice as many turnovers, more than twice as many turnovers as field goals in the second half. And again, I mean, Northwestern's been really good defensively all year. This is what they do, but this was kind of their masterpiece.
Yeah,
I mean, this really was an incredible performance. For a long time, it felt like they might not be able to take advantage of it because they struggled so mightily on the offensive end. You have to tip your cap to Boo Buie. I mean, he kept them in the game for the first 36 minutes until Chase Audige finally got going after that under 4 timeout.
Yeah, we were talking about it in the green room. I mean, Boo Buie has really played himself into an all-league, first-team type of guard. I mean, he's been averaging plus 20 points the last 8 or 9 games, making just key play after play down the stretch to just give them breathing room, just keep them in the game. And then Chase Audige, he was fantastic the final 3 minutes, 4 minutes of the game. First 36 minutes of the contest, Chase Audige goes 1 for 10 from the field, only has 6 points. The final 4 minutes, he goes 5 for 6 from the field, gets 10 points, the game-winning steal. He was just big time. And I love how guys like Boo Buie, Ty Berry, Coach Collins even, they stuck with Chase Audige because I was here in studio. I was calling for him to be taken out of the game. But they stuck with him, and he made big winning play after play down the stretch. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was funny. He said in the postgame that he couldn't throw the ball, couldn't throw a rock in the ocean, I believe was what he said at the outset of the game. And Chris Collins talked about it, that he's one of those guys who kind of has shooter's amnesia, that it just doesn't bother him if he's missed those shots, that he believes he's going to make the next one. And Collins likened him to himself a little bit as a player. I think one thing that got overlooked a little bit, and that frankly I wish we would have talked about a little bit more on the broadcast in hindsight, was the job that Northwestern did keeping Purdue off the offensive glass. Purdue got 9 offensive rebounds. They only got 2 second chance points, though. This is the best offensive rebounding team in terms of offensive rebound percentage. In other words, the percentage of rebounds they get of the shots they miss on their own end in the country. They did get 9 of them, but Northwestern did a really nice job. They held them well below their season average. Season average was nearly 40%. They got about 30% of their misses in this game and were unable to convert them.
Yeah, that's sometimes Purdue's best offense. You look at games they've had when they've struggled on the offensive end in the half court. You just throw the ball up to the rim. You let Zach Edey or Caleb First or one of those guys go get it and score it. And Northwestern knew that coming into this one. So they brought their hard hat, they brought their lunch pail, and they really played physical without fouling in that second half. And they were pushing Purdue around to not allow 0 second chance points in the second half. That was big time. And then the final 4 minutes, they just really dug down, got stops. Purdue is a team that is about execution. They really execute well in the half court. Final 4 minutes of the game, 6 turnovers, 0 made field goals. Northwestern goes on a 12-1 run to finish the game. It was just a great performance. And I think Northwestern, After losing all those close games last season ago and being a lot of tight ones now, they're comfortable being in those close games, and that's what you see down the stretch.
There was a question asked in the postgame about Audige about, hey, you were 5-12 in these close games last year. How have you gotten to the point now where you're winning them? And he said, by going 5-12.
Exactly.
That's what happens. You learn what not to do, and in the inverse, you learn what to do. Again, we're going to talk more about Northwestern here coming up. We have Chris Collins ahead on the show. I do want to talk about Purdue. They're the number one team in the country, at least for another hour or so. What do you make of what happened to them, particularly their guards here? It really felt like, and we have heaped praise on these freshman guards, and they've been really good. I mean, they were exceptional in the Iowa game, and Iowa is a fantastic team that has a veteran backcourt itself. So again, I don't want to blow it out of proportion. I think Purdue's really good, but it did feel to me like Bowie and Audige, certainly on the defensive end, made things I don't want to say exposed, but they made things really difficult for Purdue guards. And you wonder if there is a blueprint there for other teams that are as physical as Northwestern is.
Oh, no, I agree with you there. There's definitely a blueprint. You look at the teams that Purdue has lost to, although it's only been 3 games, Rutgers, Indiana, Northwestern, and all 3 of those teams, what they have in common is older, more physical guards. You think of Paul Mulcahy and Caleb McConnell. Galloway's a bigger physical guard, Bates off of the bench. And then with Northwestern, Boo Buie and Chase Audige, probably the best backcourt in the Big Ten. And even in that Maryland game with Akeem Hart, you got Jameer Young, they struggled in that second half. So if you're physical with those guards, it's just the lay of the land. And I remember being a junior or senior in this league and seeing guys like D'Angelo Russell or Melo Trimble come in the league. You got to rough them up a little bit. If you give freshman guards that have talent, space, and be able to have freedom on the offensive end, they're going to pick you apart. But if you let them feel you and you let them know you're there, it makes them uncomfortable. And then with Purdue's offense, it's all about where they catch the ball on that initial catch to feed the post. If they have 2 feet on the three-point line and it's an easy post feed, they're going to pick you apart. But if you push that first catch out, make them catch it around the half-court line, that volleyball hash, it really disrupts everything they're trying to do. It takes them out of rhythm. But those guards, 5 turnovers, 2-3 turnovers in the final 2 minutes, they've got to be better going into March.
2 of 13 from the field combined for Smith and Lawyer. Purdue's turned over 49 times in 3 games. Talking to Matt Painter before the game, he was really concerned about the turnovers. I'm sure he's even more concerned now. Northwestern has Indiana next. That'll be the battle for second place. The Hoosiers trailed most of the way against Michigan, figured out a way to win it, though, at the end, and much like Northwestern, that way was defense.
Yeah, they locked Michigan up the final 5 minutes, and it was really just confusing me why Michigan refused to give the ball to Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson only shoots the ball 1 time in the final 5 minutes, only 0 times in the final 3 minutes, and when you have a guy of that caliber, of that size, and they're playing one-on-one defense, you got to give it to them as much as possible. Hunter Dickinson only took 10 shots in the game. Trace Jackson-Davis took 23 shots in the game. And that's just not a good balance when you want to beat a team like an Indiana. You've got to attack TJD time after time. But on Indiana's side, they couldn't score down the stretch, but they got stops, and they have Hood Schifino. Hood Schifino ended up getting 8 of the final 14 points for Indiana, made the game-winning free throws. So they were able to find a way with their 2-man game to win that game. But Michigan, they got to find a way to get their best player the ball.
That duo is truly exceptional.
Yeah,
I mean, Jackson Davis has been playing really well all year. He's clearly elevated his game in the new year. But Hood Schifino, we saw some signs of it early in the year, but he has really put it together now. And then guys coming up with big plays. Trey Galloway forcing a turnover. We saw him come up very big in the Rutgers game as well. It seems like he's kind of found his place on this team. It was a game Michigan led by 11 points in the second half, on pace to score 90 a quarter of a way through the game, and yet, again, Indiana able to slow them down. You wonder a little bit here about Michigan. They're just running out of opportunities here. This was a golden chance to get a quad 1 win.
And they've got to understand that these are must-win games. And in must-win games, you got to swallow your pride. A guy like Doug McDaniel, 1 for 8 from the field, you got to suck some of that up and take the good ones. Don't take the contested ones. Kobe Buffkin, Jet Howard, your bread is butter when you go inside. When you throw the ball to Hunter Dickinson, they're playing one-on-one. If they come to double, Hunter's become a willing passer. He'll pass out of doubles, But in games where you need to win, especially when it's close down the stretch, you got to go to your horse and play off of him. And then Hunter Dickinson on the flip side, he's got to go to timeouts and tell those dudes, I need the ball. I need the ball. Get on my back. I'm going to win us the game. Because they want to get to that NCAA tournament, it's going to be on the back of Hunter Dickinson. It won't be on the back of jump shooting. It won't be the three-point line or dribble, step back. It'll be Hunter Dickinson living in the post, living at the free throw line. That's going to give him the best chance.
Just 2 quad 1 wins. They have 3 quad 1 games left. Yep. And then, of course, whatever you get in the Big Ten tournament. But they have their work cut out for them, no doubt. A defense has been the theme in all these games. How about Illinois? They had a 19-0 second half run. They held Rutgers scoreless for 10 minutes.
Yes, they did. It was crazy. And you think about the second half, it was just a tale of 2 halves. I mean, Rutgers went through that 10-minute stretch where they could just not score the ball. And that's the time where I really believe Paul Mulcahy had just got to do something on offense. You've seen it at Madison Square Garden against Michigan State, 17 points in the second half, and he was just aggressive. Time after time on the ball screen, putting pressure on the defense. And I think this was a game where he had to do that. Cam Spencer 0 for 1 in the second half, really struggled. McConnell went 0 for 4 in the second half. He struggled as well. So when that offense gets stagnant, they just need somebody to go and get a bucket. And I think Paul Mulcahy has that type of talent level to be able to break the defense down, get in the paint, and make plays. But guys like Mayer, Shannon, and Hawkins, they just took the game over in that second half. All of those guys played well, shot the ball, but their defense, it was just big time down the stretch.
Illini still have not lost back-to-back games since last January. They also had a welcome addition back to the lineup. Luke Goody playing for the first time this year after recovering from a leg injury. They did not have R.J. Melendez, and after the game, Brad Underwood said he was suspended for this one. But really good defensive effort from Illinois. They've now won 8 of their last 10, and it feels like whatever was ailing this team early in the year, it feels like they've figured out.
Their defense has been solid all year long, but it's been their offense. It's been selfish offense when they struggle. It's been dribble, over-dribbling, too many jump shots, nobody attacking the lane and playing for each other. But they figured that out about 10 games ago, 12 games ago, where they're sharing the basketball, they're driving it off a closeout, they're making the extra pass, not just the next pass. And it's taking their offense to the next level. And I think when guys like Coleman Hawkins or Matt Meyer, they're simple on offense. They take quick, good shots when they're open instead of over-dribbling. It really helps them. But then having a post presence like a Dane Danger, his development through the season, you got to guard him now. Sometimes you may have to send a double team, so it frees the guys up on a perimeter. But you knew this team could defend with their length and their athleticism at the top of the league and block shots. It was just a matter of time for that chemistry started to settle in on the offensive end.
Right. I don't think that the surprise is where they are now in the standings, right? The surprise was that they started 0-3.
Right.
This is the team that we expected to see. There was so much turnover, and I do think it's been interesting in talking to Brad Underwood, where he has said that those wins early in the year, Texas and UCLA, in his mind were kind of fool's gold.
Yeah.
That he still didn't feel like they were playing cohesively enough on the offensive end. They still go through, as you said, they'll go through periods where they take too many jump shots, they settle for threes, and I know it is frustrating to him, but the defense has become so reliable. I do want to get into Rutgers just a little bit more here. Are you concerned about Rutgers, or do you just think this is kind of the ebb and flow of a season? Because now they've gone through a stretch here where they offensively, I mean, 3 straight games under 40% from the field.
Yeah, you got to score the ball going into March. And I'm a little concerned with their offense. I'm not concerned with their talent level or their guys of who they have or their coach at all. They can figure things out. But when they go through these ruts, only guy on the bench that I believe, or on a team at this point, that is naturally just wired to score. And when I say wired to score, I mean when they were 10, 12 years old, they were getting 30 at the playground. And that's Andre Hyatt. Andre Hyatt, he is just wired to go get a basket. But it's just, can Coach Peichel let him be that guy, or can he be that guy for the team? Because they get in those 5, 10-minute ruts where no one is scoring the ball, but no one's even being aggressive. So they need someone on the floor from the wing position that could break down the defense, make tough baskets, especially at the end of a shot clock. Because you know that defense is going to travel. That defense is going to go everywhere with them. But once you get into March, you get into tournament-style play, you're running up and down, you've got to score the ball. Cam Spencer, he's going to make shots here and there. It's just a matter of when he gets going.
This is where the loss of Mawat Mag hurts
big time.
too, and I know it really just kind of crushing a guy who waited his turn behind Ron Harper Jr. and now had his opportunity and out for the year. Tough to see that. He's really a defensive enforcer. I mean, that's his primary role, but we had seen signs of him starting to score, and again, that's really what Rutgers needs. So that's where they are. Look, you figure it out. They're in great position. They're clearly going to be an NCAA tournament team, and we'll see what they can put together. Back to hoops. Michigan State cruising to a 62-41 win over Ohio State yesterday. Joey Hauser leading the way with 22, but the defense was the story. The Buckeyes hit just 28% from the field. The 41 points for the Bucks were the fewest they've scored against MSU in Columbus since they tallied 12 in a 30-point loss in 1911. It wasn't that bad, but it was bad. Was this more about the Spartans, Rayfel, or more about the Buckeyes?
I think it was a little bit of both. It was a close game all throughout that first half until the final 7 minutes. Ohio State just could not score the basketball. Only 14 points in the second half. And at halftime, Ohio State had made 5 field goals, and they had turned the ball over 8 times. And that is not a recipe to beat Michigan State. But I think this is a little bit about Michigan State getting back to their roots as far as they were +9 on the glass, +14 in the paint, had 14 points off of turnovers, and they did all of this without fouling. I mean, they only put Ohio State to the free throw line 2 times in the entire game. So I thought it was a lot to do with Michigan State's defense, but Ohio State's offense was just stagnant.
I mean, the game featured 3 free throws. There were 3 free throws shot in the entire game. It's the fewest in any Big Ten game in at least the last 13 years. That's as far back as we were able to search this morning. So it's pretty remarkable to think about that. Michigan State, look, I do feel like it's been a little weird this year because they've flown a little bit under the radar. They're playing much differently than they have in past years. And Chris Holtmann talked about this. He said he thought his team had a hard time adjusting to the slowness of Michigan State's pace. But it does feel like they've kind of figured it out here and have gotten themselves into a pretty good rhythm. They got the nice win over Michigan State, or over Maryland, I should say, got off to the good start, let Maryland back in the game, and then figured out a way to close it out. Now it feels like maybe they've kind of figured out where their strengths are, and Hauser obviously is a huge part of that.
Yeah, they know who they are offensively, and I just love when Joey Hauser, when he's aggressive. When Joey Hauser scores 15-plus points in the Michigan State game, they are 8-1 on the season. So he's got to stay aggressive on the offensive end, rather if Malik Hall's in the game or Tyson Walker has it going. Joey Hauser has to stay the guy on the offensive end. It allows A.J. Hogarth and those guys to take a back step.
Not sure what to say about Ohio State of 11 losses in 12 games. It's borderline unfathomable. The positive is the net still likes them, so it's quad 1 win for Michigan State to go in there and get a victory. How about Nebraska? They were 17 down in the second half against Wisconsin. They rallied to win. Keisei Tominaga was fantastic again. He's been one of the best stories, certainly a revelation in the Big Ten this year. And this Nebraska team, for all the adversity they've been through, Rayfel, with the injuries, just continues to play hard and play well.
And they keep finding production from different guys. I mean, Keisei Tominaga, 22 points in the game, 17 of those after halftime and in overtime, 4 threes in the second half. He was phenomenal down the stretch, really giving them that lead and really sealing the deal for those guys. Derek Walker, he took over in overtime. And then the guy like Keita off the bench. He did not play in the entire first half. Played 23 minutes in the second half and in the overtime. Got 11 rebounds off of the bench. You can get type of production from the guys, unsung heroes in that fashion. They closed the game out in overtime on a 12-0 run. Wisconsin just couldn't score the basketball, missed their final 6 shots, and turned it over time after time. Nebraska found a way with different guys.
That has been a theme for Wisconsin. They just get bogged down on the offensive end. They've now lost 8 of their last 11. They got 3 straight home games coming up. They really need to get some wins. Michigan, Rutgers, and Iowa, those 3 games. Here's what it all means for the Big Ten standings. Purdue still with a 2-game lead over Northwestern and Indiana. The Cats are technically in second place by virtue of their win over IU. Then you got 6 teams with 8 conference wins, including a 5-way tie for 5th place. Last few weeks as we prepare to head to the Big Ten tourney should be wild. Time for our big stat presented by Gatorade. Northwestern basketball taking down the AP #1 team for the first time in program history. Amazingly, it was just the second time the Cats have done it in any of the three sports that have an AP poll. The only other time it happened when Pappy Waldorf's Big Ten champion football team, Blake, Minnesota, back in 1936. Now 3 top 25 wins for the Cats this year, tied for the most in program history. And the man who orchestrated it, Chris Collins, joining us now for our big interview. Chris, what have the last 20 hours or so been like for you?
Well, just hearing that we're in company with a guy named Pappy, that's got to be pretty darn good if you're doing that. So, obviously it was a special day for the program, for the players first and foremost, the work they're putting in, and especially being down by 8 under 4 minutes left to keep fighting, to keep battling, to find a way to win. For our fans, for the students. I mean, the atmosphere in Welsh Ryan Arena yesterday was unlike maybe anything I've seen. We've maybe had a couple games since I've been here that were close, but it was just an amazing atmosphere. And just really proud of everyone involved. I know it's a big deal when you beat a team that's #1 in the country, because #1 teams are really good. And this Purdue team is all of that. And Zach Edey and what Coach Painter does there, it just came together. We played really hard. We made a lot of mistakes, but the effort and the late game shot making was pretty great, and we were able to close the deal.
You certainly did close. I mean, close on a 17-3 run. So the under 4 timeout, you're down by 8 points. Couldn't get anything to fall from the outside. Take us inside that huddle and kind of how things changed.
Yeah, I felt like, and you were doing the game, I felt like we had a 4-minute stretch there where we were really getting some good looks. We were running good offense. We were kind of doing what we wanted to attack them. We had our best players, Bowie and Audij, getting the shots kind of we wanted, and we had 3 or 4 or 5 shots kind of in and out. They scored to go up 8. We called a timeout. Coming out of that timeout, I thought it was probably the possession of the game. We ran a play. Ty Berry, got a clean look, missed a 3, and then Bowie with an unbelievable hustle play. He got an offensive rebound, kicked it out to Audij. Chase made the 3, and then stole the ball and got a dunk on the ensuing possession. We got the 5 quick points to immediately cut it to 3. And I just kind of felt in our guys that surge of energy, like, hey, we can do this. And, we really clamped down defensively. I think forced 13 turnovers in the second half, held them to 20-something% shooting. And that was the key to the game. As we were having our shooting woes, we didn't let them get to the double-digit deficit, which would have been insurmountable. So great job by the guys. We took care of the ball late. We made free throws. We got the stops, and certainly was a great win.
You talk about the defense there. It has been phenomenal all year, but it was at a different level in this game. You forced 13 second-half turnovers. You only allowed 6 field goals. You described this offense to me before the game as a machine. So how did you get the machine to malfunction? What was it that you did on that end?
Well, we just tried to be as disruptive as we could without gambling too much. If you allow them, they run such good offense, their motion, their low post presence, they get Edey in different positions. They put you in tough spots. Their guards really cut well. They have good shooters. Obviously, Smith is a good young point guard. We just wanted to maybe try to disrupt the rhythm as much as we could. We had a little bit of success with a zone press in the second half that kind of just made them use a little clock and kind of got them off their spots a little bit. And I just thought, we did really our trapping scheme, there was no magic to it, but I just thought our guys did it with such, passion and aggressiveness that it kind of got Edey on his heels a little bit and, forced him into a couple turnovers, and we were shooting passing lanes. And I just loved our activity level and our fight. And I told you before the game, like, when you do that, you kind of have to pick your poison with these guys, and we were a little bit fortunate. They did get some open looks, and if you're going to beat a team like that, you got to get a little bit lucky with them missing some open shots, which fortunately in the second half happened for us.
We mentioned your guards, and Ray Fell just a few minutes ago said they might be the best backcourt in the Big Ten. Bowie was phenomenal throughout the game, as he has been really throughout this Big Ten season. He's just been tremendous. He had nearly half your points. Audige, as you said, got going after a really rough first 36 minutes or so. But how have you seen those two guys elevate their games this year to become a duo that people could talk about as the best backcourt in the Big Ten? Because let's just be honest, that would not have been the case a year ago.
Yeah, I just think their maturity and their poise this year, Dave, they're just playing, kind of, they've always shown flashes and have shown their ability to have that kind of talent. But just the decision making, the shot selection, the leadership, their chemistry with each other. It's really cool when you have a backcourt like that. They play off of each other. They feed off of each other. The guys on our team know that they're the guys, and they play their roles around them at a really good level. And, just their confidence. I mean, it's great. Just we're in huddles late in games to hear them be the ones talking, leading, directing. You hope to have that be the case when you have senior guards. And that's really come to fruition with these guys. Their experience and maturity is really paying off.
You touched on it a few moments ago as well, but I just want to add to it. We have to talk about the atmosphere. It was just amazing, as we both know, both being in that building. And when they redesigned this arena, they really did it to make it very intimate, took out 1,000 seats. The students are right there behind both baskets, and it was phenomenal. I mean, it was deafening. I know you have believed for a long time that Northwestern could be special atmosphere-wise. Give us a sense of what it felt like in that building for you yesterday.
Well, I've been really lucky in my career as a player and as a coach. Prior to coming to Northwestern, I've really had the opportunity to probably be in every iconic venue in the country, either playing or coaching, and seen those atmospheres at their very, very best. And yesterday was very Cameron-like. It was very Allen Fieldhouse-like. There's no question. The close proximity, the intimacy of the building, it's everything kind of came to fruition when Jim Phillips and I, way back when, had this kind of dream of creating this new Welsh Ryan and being small and being intimate and having the students right on top and creating this college atmosphere that could rival, what we see at other places in our conference and nationwide. I think it was kind of everything we dreamed of, and it's just really been fun to see the students rally around this team. I hope that happened. We got a great group of guys that we have our limitations. We're not perfect by any means. We have a lot of things we can improve upon, but it's a group of guys that really love playing with each other. They play really hard. They compete every night. And it's great to see that our fans and our students have really rallied around this team. And, hopefully we can keep it going. We have a few more home games. We're going to need it, especially with Indiana coming to town in a couple nights.
Get to that one in a second, but I do want to ask you about one member of that student body in particular, your son Ryan, who was not in that student section. He's on the bench with you because he is one of your managers. It was really quite a scene with the two of you speaking with Andy Katz and both kind of welling up in tears after the game yesterday. Yeah. What did it mean to be able to share that with him, and what has it meant to interact with him every day in the way that you do?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It totally reminded me of growing up with my own upbringing, being a coach's kid and being a ball boy for the Bulls kind of back in the day, and after big wins kind of going and hugging my dad and being a part of it. I mean, people know when you're in college athletics, whether you're coaching or whatever you're doing, it's very much a family business. You don't just go to practice and you don't just coach the games. I mean, your players become part of your family, through the recruiting process, through all the things you do off the floor. Your family is very much involved in every part of the program. So to be able to have him now with us and be a student manager and share, in a moment like that and going through good times, bad times, but when you have a day like that, to be able to have him right there by my side and share it with family, to me, there's nothing more special than that.
I had the Indiana-Rutgers game last week, right after Indiana beat Purdue, and I asked Mike Woodson this question. I'm going to ask you the same thing. How do you refocus your team? I mean, that is a huge emotional win. They had a huge emotional win over Purdue, and they were able to refocus and get a win over Rutgers. Now, as you mentioned, you have Indiana, who is a great team in its own right, coming in, the 14th ranked team in the country. Give us a sense of what you do with a team after a win like that to get them ready to play another enormous game on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, it starts today. I mean, we absolutely have to move on and get, and it's ingrained in my brain forever. My coach, Coach K, would always say, next play. Whether you made a three, you got to dunk, you got to stop, you missed a shot, you turned it over, it's on to the next play. And, that we have to have a next play mentality starting today. I wanted the guys to enjoy yesterday. I wanted them to celebrate and be with their families and friends and take in what they had done. But when we come to the practice floor today, we got to move forward to Indiana. The same way we would have been saying that had Purdue kicked our butt yesterday. It's
right.
It's on to the next. In this league, you got to move on, win or lose. You're seeing everybody can beat anyone on a given night, and the teams that are doing well are the ones that have the ability to respond, good or bad, and get to the next thing. And certainly I think Indiana is playing as well as anyone in the conference right now, maybe as well as anyone nationally. They're 8-1 in their last 9 games. Trace Jackson Davis. We had our hands full yesterday with Edie. It's kind of fun, I guess, Dave. You play the very 2 most dominant players in the country back to back. It's not fun preparing for either one of these guys, and we're going to have our hands full. And I know our guys will be excited though. They know it's a big game. It's that time of year, and we're going to have to be at our best if we're going to be able to compete with those guys.
It should be a good one here on the Big Ten Network on Wednesday night. Chris, again, congratulations on a huge accomplishment yesterday, and thanks for taking some time out here with us.
Thanks a lot.
Now look at what's ahead for the Cats, and as Chris alluded to there, it is no picnic. Indiana and Iowa next at home. They still have road games against Illinois, Maryland, and Rutgers, looking to secure just the second NCAA tourney bid in school history. Another tremendous weekend for Maryland basketball. They've been waking up feeling like this a lot lately. Top Penn State by 6 Saturday at home for their 5th win in 6 games. The Terps, part of that 5-team deadlock in the middle of the Big Ten, now 8-6 in the league in year 1 under Kevin Willard. Speaking of, the Maryland coach is joining us now. Coach, thanks a lot for taking the time. Now 5 wins in the last 6 games. What has impressed you the most about your team in this stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, we've kind of got back to being a very good defensive team, really getting after it and more or less having fun on the defensive end. I think, we went through a little bit early in conference play where I just don't think we were having as much fun being aggressive on the defensive end. And I think the guys have done a really good job of getting back to how we were playing a little bit earlier in the year of just being aggressive on the defensive end.
Coach, I can't say enough about Jahmir Young. I mean, he has just been phenomenal and is playing at kind of an all-league level here. He was really good in the second half of this one. What has his presence meant to this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jahmir is playing as good as any guard in this conference, if not the country. He has given us, not only great points and, assists on the court, but he's been a great presence, in timeouts and practice. He's really developed into a really good leader. He's got a great toughness about him. He loves to compete. And I think as he's kind of gotten used to this league and the physicality and the size of the league, as he's gotten more comfortable, so is our offense.
We were talking a little bit in the studio before the game. Obviously, this game was on Big Ten Network. And we were talking about Hakeem Hart and that he had been struggling a little bit shooting the ball. I think it was 4 of his last 30 from 3 coming into this game and then busted out. I mean, had a huge game, a season high 23 points. I know he's kind of a quiet guy who just goes about his business for this team, but what does it mean to have him step forward in that sort of way as you kind of look to put these pieces together and make this surge into March?
Yeah, Hakeem is kind of like, you look at his stats and he's averaging 11 points a game. He gets 3 assists per game. He gets 5 rebounds, and they're good stats. But then if you watch film on us, you see how valuable he is. He's one of those kids that's turned into almost our second point guard. He has the ability to give Jahmir much needed breaks even when Jahmir is on the court. And that's kind of what we did the other night against Penn State. Penn State did a great job of bottling up Jahmir, but what we did is we just kind of went to Hakeem, and I have so much confidence in the fact that he's going to make a winning play. And, the more we get him involved, the more pick and rolls we get him in there, it just gives Jahmir a chance to kind of get off the ball and get a rest.
Bigger picture with him and Dante Scott and Julian Reese It's always awkward when you're in transition, particularly in this day and age where players are free to go wherever they want and play right away. I'm just interested kind of how you sold those guys on coming back and being a part of what is a transitional year, and transitional years often can be difficult years.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, what I told all three of them, I had recruited Dante. I had known Hakeem from his AAU days. I think the fact that we had played them twice and that they knew what type of style I played, I didn't have to sell them on player development. I didn't have to sell them on, like, this is the type of style I play. They kind of knew me. I think that really helped, the fact that we had played against them a couple times. And what I told them, I said, they obviously went through a really tough year last year. And what I told them is that, I want them to be a big part of why we turn this program back around. And I was going to promise them that they were going to have an unbelievable fun year, no matter what. We were going to have a lot of fun playing basketball. And I think, the fact that they were familiar with me, they really liked my system. And the fact that they were going to be a big part of what we're trying to do, I think that really sold them on us.
Well, not only have you guys had fun, your fans have had a lot of fun too. I mean, it's an amazing home court advantage that you have created there. You have yet to lose a conference home game. What does an edge like that mean to your program?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we have 7,000 students at every game. They're into it. They're cheering. They have different cheers for different timeouts. It's been, and again, we have 5 or 6 new guys that, haven't played here. And I think the fact that the students and the crowd have been so great, they've been so into the game, into the way we're playing, it's really given us a great boost at home.
The last 8 games, Coach, you guys are plus 74 in the paint. This is not a great outside shooting team. I know that's something that you'll address here going forward in recruiting, but how have you adapted your style of play this year to fit the strengths of this group?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, and even just kind of getting used to this league, the grind of the league, the size of the league, even for me, to go in some of the places we've gone, I realized quickly that we just had to get the basketball down to Julian, down to Dante, give them opportunities to put pressure on the defense, to get fouled, to make the big guys in this league defend. You just can't have them resting on the defensive end. You got to get guys like Hunter and Zach. You got to get them to defend, just so they're not so fresh going down the other end. And I think the biggest adjustment I've made is, I kind of took half my playbook and said, okay, this isn't going to work against this size. We need to kind of make it a little bit more simpler. We need to make sure that I'm getting these big guys to defend, because there's so much talent at the 4 and 5 spot in this league. You just can't let them rest on the defensive end, because they'll kill you on the other end.
Well, you guys play with incredible intensity on the defensive end. And obviously, look, there's a huge X and O component to defense. It's not just about playing hard, but it is partly about playing hard. And I guess I'm just curious how you coach that intensity, how you get every possession to kind of look the way that it seems, at least from an outsider.
Yeah, I have a very simple rule as a head coach. And all my guys, and I think that's why they like playing for me, is if you just play hard on the defensive end and you give me everything you have on the defensive end, I will let you do whatever you want to do on the offensive end. We really don't have that many rules. You can take any shot. You could be 0 for 15, and if you're open, you get to shoot the basketball. That's the only thing I ask for my guys, is to give me everything on the defensive end. I never worry about the offensive end. We have some really good players on this roster, so I have confidence in them on the offensive end. I just ask them to, give me everything they got on the defensive end. And this group has been great. They've given me, they've had such a great attitude, such great effort in practice. They've been a joy to coach. So I think when you have a group that's bought in, you got to buy into them on the offensive end.
Well, you have Purdue coming up at home here on Thursday. You gave them everything they could handle in West Lafayette. The defensive end really was fantastic. You threw some zone in there. It just felt like they were off balance kind of throughout the game. Now you got the rematch coming up. You get it on your home court. What are the keys here against Zach Edey and company, particularly with them coming off a loss?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for us is we got to figure a way to score against them. I don't think they get enough credit for how good they are defensively. They protect Zach tremendously. The 2 young freshman guards, man, they work on the defensive end. I don't think they get enough credit for how hard they work and how much they picked up a college scheme so quickly. They're physical. physical. They're big. We also got to find a way to stop Gillis because I think he's been really key to the way they've been playing lately. So obviously you have to deal with Zach, and I think everyone in the country is still trying to deal with it. Chris and Northwestern played such a great game yesterday. It was a fun game to watch. It was great to see that atmosphere. We're going to need the same atmosphere, and we're going to have to play just as tough as Chris and Northwestern did.
Kevin, looking forward to that one again coming up Thursday here on the Big Ten Network. Really appreciate you taking some time out to talk to us. Thanks, Coach.
No, thanks for having me.
Look at what's ahead for the Terps. Again, that huge game on Thursday right here on our airwaves in Nebraska and Minnesota following that. You look at Maryland, pretty manageable slate, honestly, as they look to enhance their standing heading into the Big Ten tournament here in Chicago.